All right. If I had to start all over again, what industries would I avoid and what industries would I get into? All right. So healthcare is absolutely one of these industries I would avoid if I had to start all over again. Now, right now, I'm in healthcare. I've done a $4.5 million deal, and we have two more deals set to close in about 90 days or so. But why would I avoid healthcare? Three reasons. One, healthcare is extremely specialized. When you're talking about getting a business loan to acquire these medical practices, the banks are not going to be comfortable with you just having a partner who's a physician. They will want to see that you yourself, as majority owner of the company, they would like for you to be a physician, because they're going to ask you what happens in the worst case scenario if your medical director and your advisor step away, or even your partner that has stake in the company. By the way, the bank would like any partner that you have to have substantial stake in the company, which is about 20% or more. So in the worst case scenario, what happens if everyone steps away? What happens if the person that you hire, the physician you hire, steps away? What happens if your business partner, who's a doctor, steps away? Worst case scenario. In that scenario, the banks would like for you to be a physician to be able to step into the practice and be able to run the operations. So that's one reason I would say I would avoid healthcare altogether if you are not a physician yourself, if you're not a practicing physician. So that's one. The second reason is because of the regulations. Now, healthcare is one of the industries that have the most regulations in the United States. And because of that, I would absolutely avoid it. But that being said, that is not something that scared me away, because I have very competent people that knows healthcare law and know how to maneuver with that within that space. And a lot of people, have been saying for the past, 40 years or so, that healthcare is about to be out of here, right? The government's going to come in and regulate it to the T. That has not been the case yet. But that's the second reason why I would not get into healthcare, because of all the regulations. Third, when it comes to post-closing acquisitions, there's something called integration. And when it comes to integrating, the more specialized it is, the harder it is going to be for you to fully integrate that acquisition, especially when you're talking about your second, third, fourth, fifth acquisition and you're building out a network. That is going to be very, very difficult for you to integrate everything properly without anything going wrong. And the amount of deals you do does not have anything to do with it. You can do 5, 10 deals a month. That's great. Now, what it comes down to is the integration. How are you going to integrate it? And do you have a team that's competent enough to be able to integrate all of the acquisitions that you do? So those are just three very short reasons why I would absolutely avoid healthcare. If I had to get into it again, I would not get into healthcare. But let's talk about some of the industries I would get into and why. So some of the industries I would get into, and I would look at companies that are closer to a service-based business, right? We're talking about mechanic shops, right? Tire shops, coin laundries. We're talking about anything that gives you a service, landscaping, HVAC, wiring, electrical, right? Things like that, construction. Those are some of the industries I would absolutely get into. The reason why is because the banks, when they look at it as far as operations, you can get a operator to come in that has experience running those kinds of businesses, and it's not a problem to really operate them. When you're talking about an HVAC company, or you're talking about electrical, right, or plumbing, these companies aren't, or these industries here are not so specialized to where you yourself have to be like a master electrician or a plumber or anything like that. You can actually just hire other plumbers. And the main reason why is because you're not going to lose your base, your client base. As opposed to healthcare, if you have a new physician that steps in, right, a lot of people tend to leave that practice and find other physicians elsewhere. The reason why is because you have to understand healthcare, when you're dealing with doctors, these doctors have been seeing the same patient for 5, 10, 15 plus years. So for someone to just come in there and become a brand new person, a lot of times people aren't really comfortable with that. Now, as opposed to plumbing, electrical, construction, or anything like that, that's not something that you are dealing with people hands-on and they're going to get uncomfortable with someone who's new because they're not used to that individual. That is not the case, and that's why I would actually look to get into these industries. Like I said, I would look at plumbing, HVAC, electrical, construction, landscaping. I mean, anything that's more of a service base, but that's not too specialized. Those are the industries I would get into. And the other thing I would not do, when I first started out, I had a very, very big team. I had about 12 people on my team. And ultimately, I end up letting go 80% of those people. The reason why is because we had a couple people that specialized in the same thing. I had 2 accountants, I had 2 attorneys, right? I had about 4 medical advisors at the time. I had a chairman, I had a M&A director, I had a CEO, COO, CFO. I had all of these people, but I hadn't closed a deal yet. So what happened was I over leveraged my company before I even made a penny. And that is not something that you want to do. So if I were starting all over, there are 4 people that I would actually bring on, and only 4 people until you gain traction, you've closed a couple deals, and you're able to bring these people on either full-time or rent. By the way, it's a lot cheaper to rent these people than it is to have them full-time. But these are the 4 people that I would have on my team. The number 1, you need someone who has a finance background and someone who has experience executing deals. So when a deal come in, you need that one specific person who is going to tell you, hey, John, hey, Joey, this is where we are right now. The deal just came in. We have an executed letter of intent. The next step or the next 30 days, this is what we're going to do. The next 30 days, we're going to do this. So for example, you might want to see some kind of list that you're going to send to the seller requesting due diligence documents, whether it's going to be financial and legal. You need someone to be able to do that. You need someone to come up with an organizational chart, right? And who's responsible for what. You need someone who's going to say, hey, who's part of the deal team and who's part of management. And you need someone who's going to be able to coordinate all these things. And that's just one person. In fact, right now, the way I have it, I have a CFO, which leads our acquisitions, and he's also an accountant. So that's actually 2 people in one, right? You don't need to have all of these people. So I would get one person who has experience closing deals and executing, right? The life cycle of a deal, you need someone who is experienced in that. You don't need a mergers and acquisitions, what do you call these people? Kind of like advisor or assistant. That's not what you need. You need someone who execute deals, right? You need someone who their job, their sole job is to actually lead the acquisitions. Now, a lot of people have chairmen. A chairman is someone with, the same kind of background, but oftentimes they are a investment banker. You do not need an investment banker because that is going to be someone who is expensive. They're gonna look for about 10 or more % equity in your company. Absolutely avoid a chairman. You do not need a chairman. You do not need a CEO. The reason you don't need a CEO is because, well, if you do get a CEO, make sure you get a CEO that has startup experience. But you don't need a CEO if you have 0 portfolio. If you have not made your first acquisition, your second or your third, a CEO is actually going to be a waste of time and money and equity. And those equity dollars are expensive. So you want to hold on to those as much as possible, right? So you want to avoid these people. So you need someone who execute deals, and you need someone who is an accountant. Reason why you need an accountant is for them to verify the numbers. Oftentimes when you're dealing with businesses that are, 1 to 5 million in revenue, these owners do not retain lawyers or accountants. So these financials that you get from these businesses, they will be unaudited. So that's why you would need an accountant to be able to verify the numbers you're looking at, to tell you, hey, look, okay, I feel comfortable with this, or the books are getting cooked. This is not a deal that we want to pursue. So you need an accountant. The next person that you need is an advisor/operator. You need someone who has experience running the kind of businesses that you're looking to buy in the industry, preferably 10, 15 years of experience, and you may want to look for someone who has had successful exits, meaning they've operated, let's say, HVAC companies, they've operated those in the past, and they've actually sold, or they were part of a company that got sold, and they had an exit horizon. Those are the people that you want to look for when it comes to an advisor or industry expert. The next person you're going to need is an attorney, a corporate attorney. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're doing everything by the book, and you're not leaving yourself open, and you're not being protected legally when it comes to doing these things, because a lot of the things that you're going to do, you need that legal oversight to be able to tell you, or just to be able to cover you as a business and as a person, and your entire team as well. So you need that legal professional, which is a corporate attorney, corporate/transactional attorney, right? So those are the only 4 people you need. You need an M&A director, you need a accountant, and you need someone who has experience running businesses in that industry, and you need an attorney. That's all you need, those 4 people. Anything besides that, you're gonna be over leveraging your company. And in fact, you're just gonna have people that's placeholders, and you're gonna demand payment when the deal is closed, having done very little work. You wanna avoid that completely. But guys, those are just some of the things that I would do if I had to start all over again, right? Keep a very, very lean team, and also avoid healthcare or avoid industries that are highly, highly specialized, right? Go into industries that it's easy for you to just set somebody in there, they take over, they run operations, and you continue to look for more deals and close more deals. That's what I would do. Now, another tip, I would actually utilize bank financing. My first deal, I actually used 100% investor, but we did get a working line of credit, right? So that's working capital. That's the only thing we use the banks for. But if I had to do it again, I would avoid going to investors, 100% investor route, and I would look to get financing from either the SBA, or I would look to get asset-based lending from these banks, which you could use your accounts receivable and assets that you have in the business. Now, lastly, I would actually look for companies that are asset heavy. When it comes to when it comes to healthcare, that's not something that's asset heavy unless there's real estate associated with that medical practice. But oftentimes, if it's just a single physician practice that's attached to a building or anything like that, real estate won't be involved unless it's a standalone physician practice, right? But you want to look for businesses that are asset heavy. The more assets that business has, the easier it is for you to get a loan from the bank, and you're going to be able to put those, you're going to be able to collateralize those assets, as opposed to giving some kind of personal guarantee and collateralizing your personal assets. So avoid businesses that are highly specialized and businesses that has very, very little asset. But go after businesses that has a lot of assets and that are not too specialized, where you could just place anybody with experience in that to be able to run it, right? So those are just some of the things that I would do if I had to start all over again. I'll make another video with that goes in depth with everything I just talked about, but I just wanted to bring you this short video, guys, because I just talked to somebody and I had to tell them, hey, if I had to start all over again, healthcare is absolutely something I would not get into, right? So I wanted to make this video for you guys. So next video is coming up at 4 p.m. today. All right, guys, check us out.